Hi, this is Misha, and this is very much a first look preview, more even of a teaser. But this is a U.S. military gun, or one of them, that you have asked us about doing. This is a Winchester model 1912, or just model 12, or M12 trench gun. And this is actually my first original, or at least mostly original, trench gun. As with anything old, it's not flawless and perfect, but this came from a friend. And we will be doing more with this as time goes on. Well, what makes a trench gun? The U.S. military has purchased many different configurations and types of shotguns over the years. What we know as trench guns typically have a 20, or maybe sometimes in some certain models, 21-inch barrel. Most of them have the handguard, as it's called, or as we know it, a heat shield. They have a bayonet lug. They have sling swivels. And of course, they usually have a pretty plain finish, utilitarian look to them. They also purchased a large number of different Riot Guns. A Riot Gun is what we would probably recognize today as a police shotgun. Typically, a Riot Gun had an 18 to 19-inch barrel. It did not have a heat shield, and didn't even always have sling swivels. So basically a short barrel gun. And then a third class, the military would buy, believe it or not, some 26-inch barrel guns. Ostensibly for training, but also just kind of for use by soldiers on base. So there's a wide range of guns with U.S. property marks. Of course, not just from Winchester, from Remington and Savage and Stevens and Ithaca and so on. So quite a history. The Model 12 itself was a further development of Winchester's Model 1897, which was developed by John Moses Browning. Essentially, it was the same gun as this, but it had an exposed hammer and the slide came out the back of the receiver. It was really the earliest smokeless powder slide action shotgun. Well, Winchester came out with that, but other companies quickly caught up and went to the enclosed hammerless design, kind of leaving Winchester behind. But that was fixed by Thomas Johnson, who worked on the Browning design and improved it to come up with the Model 12 here, introduced in 1912, of course. Now, interestingly, this shotgun was first introduced in 20 gauge. But very soon, 1914 or so, 12 gauge and 16 gauge, for what it's worth, versions would be released by Winchester. So it was a very new shotgun when in 1917 the U.S. military ordered some. Now, most of the shotguns they purchased, most of the trench guns they purchased in World War I were of the 1897 pattern, the more old traditional chestnut, but they did buy about 20,000 of the Model 12s during World War I. All would have a blued finish, and they would use this barrel assembly designed at the Springfield Armory. It contains the bayonet lug, the front sling swivel, and the heat shield handguard. And the World War I heat shield handguards would have 6 rows of holes. Well, after Pearl Harbor, the U.S. knew it was going to war, and soon, early in 1942, Winchester was once again called upon to deliver shotguns amongst many other guns for the U.S. military. So by March of 42, a new contract for more 1897s and a much larger contract for Model 12s, M12s, was placed. And this would run all the way through 43 and 44, with the final guns being shipped in early 1945. In total, over 80,000 would be shipped to the U.S. military, meaning roughly 100,000 of these would be in military service. The World War II era guns were very similar to the World War I, except they would go to this new pattern of heat shield with 4 rows of slightly larger holes. Also, late in the war, they would switch to Parkerized finish, and refurbished guns would also be given a phosphated Parkerized finish. All of these guns hold 5 in the tube plus 1. They are capable of slam firing, quite famously known. They have a very simplistic corn cob slide that bulges slightly in the center, and a very simplistic stock, kind of an oil finish with a hard rubber Winchester logo butt plate. Well, while the U.S. military would not receive any more after 1945, they would keep these in service all the way through Korea and into the beginning of Vietnam. However, Winchester discontinued, at least in standard production, the Model 1912 in 1963, so getting replacement guns and replacement parts was starting to become difficult, even for the U.S. military, plus the cost. This gun was very modern when it was developed, but by the 1960s, the milled receiver and other factors made it rather expensive. So in the end, while Model 12s definitely saw service in Vietnam, it slowly but surely was eclipsed by newer guns like the Remington 870 and Winchester's own Model 1200. Well, we're going to do a full-length video getting much more into the history, variations, telling fakes from real, talking about the pros and cons of this gun here, but I know several have been very eagerly wanting us to do a trench gun, so I thought we would do a teaser video. Well, anyway, feel free to comment below. If you could, like, share, and subscribe, and also check out a link to our Patreon page. This is Misha, and we will be back very soon with this here gun next time.